All right, today I'm going to be working with Atlas lunging with the target. So I have just like a training stick and I took the lash part off, and he already knows how to target my hand and he knows how to target a crop. So I'm just kind of adding this in. You'd add more steps if your horse does not already know how to target. So the goal for him is to start getting him to lunge around me. So he touched the target, I just held it up and he was like, okay, I already know what to do. So he walked forward and touched it. So I clicked and fed. The second time I'm trying to add a cue. So my hand up is what I want to do first, and then I'm having him touch a target. So this is something that I learned since this video is when you start training with positive reinforcement, it's opposite of negative reinforcement as far as cues go. So you want the behavior first and then start cueing. With negative reinforcement, it's the opposite, and that's what I had known for the longest. So, which it does work, like he is listening here, but you really want that solid behavior before you start cueing. So that's just a little note there. But he is understanding it fairly well. But if you want it to be a little bit easier, I just wait until you have that lunging. So him going forward on the lunge circle and then add in that cue, which would be my hand lifting up. So, and all I'm doing is just kind of holding it out, just like a quarter of the way or so ahead on the circle of him, and then once he starts, he got a little scared there. Once he starts going forward on the circle, I will click and feed him. So for the lunging part, it's important that he gets clicked for, that was actually pretty nice. I asked him with my cue and he just started to step over really nicely, so I'm going to reward him right there. So I want to reward him and click him for going forward to the target and not necessarily touching it, because if I'm always asking him to touch it and I keep taking it away, he could get frustrated. So I do reinforce occasionally for him touching it because I want that to still be the goal, like added in there, like, okay, you're still supposed to touch it, but I really want to reinforce most of the time for just walking toward it. So that way he'll get a little bit less frustrated. So I'm adding in some more petting here because I'm not sure what he was a little worried about there. I'm not going to, try and find it and worry too much about it. I just want to make sure he's okay with that. So that's part of the training is I'm asking him to do stuff and then I'm going to change to something else. So then he can kind of experience those changes and he's okay with them. Now I'm going to the other direction. You can tell he's a little bit more confused here. Ideally, I should have kept going the other way, but again, I'm experimenting with this, and so I'm just kind of seeing how well it's going to go. Like, should I continue training it? So that's what is happening there. And I'm just kind of desensitizing him with his hair, with his mane. But you could tell, like, he went about a nice circle to the left, and then I was like, all right, let's try the right. And he was a little bit more lost here. But after I step back here from kind of just doing a bit of desensitizing, he's licking and chewing, so he's getting a little bit more relaxed, so that's nice. There he's a little confused. He wanted to go back to the left, and I just showed him where to go with my target, and he figured it out, and I go ahead and click and feed him here. So, especially when you're doing lunging things and leading things, when you change sides, they might get confused. They might try to keep going the other way, and it's not a big deal. I'm just going to guide them. That's what the target's for, and show him which direction I would like. So, and he's kind of anticipating here and kind of pushing into me a little bit. And I want him to have that nice big round circle, so I do use a longer target now when I train it. So there I went ahead and put on his neck, and he's totally fine. So I'm just kind of doing a bit of desensitizing there and making sure he's okay with that. But I use a much longer one now, so he's, giving me plenty of space. This one is decent. Maybe this is a bit more advanced. I was just kind of playing with it, and that's how I ended up on the training stick, because it had that little leather part where you would attach the lash to, and it gave him something visual to see. So I'm just kind of giving him the cue there, and then he kind of, since I had been doing both negative and positive reinforcement, he was a bit confused. I put my target stick up, and he was like, oh my gosh, are you going to send me away? Should I touch it? He was conflicted there, and you could tell that. And then he went ahead and scooted his shoulders toward me, which he has a habit of doing, which I didn't catch in the beginning. No big deal. I'm just going to ask him to step over, and that was nice. He went out on the circle on my cue there, but we're just kind of playing with the beginning of it, and he's kind of going on his own. That's actually pretty nice. I don't necessarily want that. Like, he's offering me things, but he is offering me the correct thing. So that he is thinking about the right thing. So I went ahead and cued him and lifted my stick up. That looked really good. He does have a decent amount of bend, which you'll get with that smaller circle, but as I continue to train this, it's going to be with the longer target stick. And there he was nice while I went ahead and rubbed on his mane here, and he's okay with that. So giving him the cue there. That looked good. I'm going to click that just for moving forward. I didn't even have to hold up my target there. Really, you could just see that he's kind of confused, and that's why I'm showing this. It's the training process, so we're kind of playing around and seeing what works here. So this is just me figuring out how it works. Now I have a better understanding of it, but it is interesting to see us both figure it out. It is harder, but he is figuring it out, so we are making progress there. But I found that all of the horses seem to do much better with following versus chasing, which I never really thought of it before. You just think lunging is lunging, you use a whip, that's what happens. But to the horses, and especially to Atlas, because he's so sensitive, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is actually chasing. So I'm like trying to teach my horse to be relaxed, but I'm chasing him to do it. So it was a bit of a counter move, like doing the opposite of what I even want. And so I really like this. You might have trouble changing to it, but it works really well. So he was pretty good for his first lesson.